And we're now going to focus on what is being called one of the biggest banking frauds in India. Now, the central agency, the CBI, has claimed a diversion of funds by ABG Shipyard to 98 sister companies, even as the country's premier investigation agency probes the role of the various accused. The fraud is about 23,000 crore rupees. The period through which it is being investigated is between 2012 and 2017. But the roots of the issues that ABG Shipyard has faced financially perhaps can be traced back to the 2008 crisis. Now, right now, Enforcement Directorate, CBI, has its focus on the promoters of the company, but the entire story also tells us about a case which has just been going on and on at a time when we have such strict rules in place. We now have an entire mechanism to catch such frauds. We've burnt our fingers with several of them in the past. Why has this gone unscrutinized for all of this time is one of the key questions today. But first, let us tell you what this ABG Shipyard alleged scam is all about. My colleague Abhimanyu is joining us for more.
CBI sources have told ET Now that ABG Shipyards diverted funds to 98 sister companies, and the premier investigation agency is scrutinizing all available data and evidence in detail to ensure that the charges which are being leveled sustain in the code of law. CBI has said that it could not file around 100 high-value bank fraud cases due to withdrawal of general consent by states, which had hindered investigation by the agency. The agency has issued lookout circulars against the accused directors, promoters and public servants to stop them from freeing India. The accused named in CBI's FIR are Rishi Kumar Agarwal, Santhanam Muthuswamy, Ashwini Kumar, Sushil Agarwal and Ravi Vimal Nevatia. CBI's timeline of ABG Shipyard case has clearly stated that the major disbursement of loans had taken place between 2005 to 2012, following which CBI had launched an inquiry, and after complaints were lodged by various banks, CBI had found out that there were 28 banks who were involved in the consortium with a huge amount of disbursement with bank loans of various kinds under probe. This includes CC loan, term loan, letters of credit and bank guarantees which were given as advance by banks. It remains to be seen whether CBI is going to apprehend any accused in the near future.
All right, so now while the investigation unfolds, a lot of details have emerged from the FIR that has been filed by the CBI, and it gives us a glimpse into how all of this may have unfolded. Tamal Bandyopadhyay, senior journalist, is joining us on the show. Gandhi, former RBI Deputy Governor, is also joining us on the show today to give us some insight on what exactly could have happened. This is 28 banks. The lead bank over here is ICICI Bank, a private bank. And one has to really try and understand whether this was a situation of a regime which is now being claimed as a political fight which allowed phone banking and loans to be evergreened, or is there a systemic problem here? Tamal, let me begin by just getting your take on what you're making of the ABG Shipyard case. I think you're on mute, Tamal.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
I think Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi, and others should be happy. In the stacking order, they have been dethroned. Yes, overtaken them with much bigger fraud and bank default. Now, I have a slightly different take. Let's not get into what the bankers have done and why it is taken so long. These are technicalities we can explain in detail. But I would like to throw the attention to the company itself and its business model. The ABG group was into diversifies business. Now, do you see the diversification? Started at ship repairing, fine. From there to shipbuilding, logical because you are going up the value chain. And from there, you get into cement plant. Where is the synergy there? And look at the cement plant. The plant is located in Surat, but the clinker is in Kutch. Anywhere in India, would you find a cement plant where the clinker is so far away from the plant? So why was the cement plant, first of all, was set up, and what is the connection between ship repairing and shipbuilding? And then part of the cement plant, which never actually took off, I think it's all NPs in the bank's books, it took decades. And then there's a power generation unit within the cement plant. And cement plant was before not operational, but the power generation unit was operational. The sole objective was to get the subsidy from the bank. And in the entire chain of things, be it ship repairing to shipbuilding to cement plant to power generation, you will find related party transaction within the family. I would not like to name the family, everybody knows. So that's the case. So that's the one side of the story. The other side of his, is a very innovative promoter. He took money. I don't think he took money for his diversification. He took money for round tripping, or technically what you call teaming and leading. So that's the purpose he took money. He took a lot of things to grab subsidy. Again, it is diversification, but in unrelated areas so that you get subsidy. And is too aggressive. And the final point I'm making is because I don't want the former deputy governor, Mr. Gandhi, keeping on waiting. He had a lot of things to say. So as a journalist, I should be very quick, and then we can take it forward. Finally, you see, he had the uncanny ability and knack to keep the financial sector very happy. Look at the thing, the Western India shipyard, he took over and he played a white knight for the FIs. So ICICI, who had was a huge bad loan, actually he came to the rescue of ICICI. So it gone into CDR, and part of the, part of the ICICI debt got into equity, so on and so forth. So he played a white knight for ICICI for this. Similarly, for the cement plant, he played a similar role for IFCI.
Sure.
Both data and equity came from IFCI. And finally, he wanted to also clinch Great Offshore. When Great Offshore defaulted to ILFS, he was on the verge of picking up Great Offshore again through the same route. And had he got it right, then you would have been the quasi-owner of Bharti Shipyard too. But the SEBI's listing guideline did not allow him to do that. So it's a very interesting case.
No,
it's a very, very interesting case.
It is an interesting case, which is why we want to focus on it. And Tamal, you're the best person to take us through, these layers within the layers as they get uncovered by the agency as well. But my question to Mr. R. Gandhi is simply, how did this carry on for so many years unnoticed? Are there systemic loopholes that we need to continue to look at and continue to plug?
Thank you. Of course, Tamal has explained the certain aspects of the whole issue. That is one part of it. The second part, as you mentioned, as you asked, was there any systemic issue in this one? Yes, for that we have to look back. The large borrowers, very large projects funding, no single bank can do it. So it used to be earlier under consortium. Later on, it was a must those days, mandatory. Later on, it has been made not mandatory. So multiple banking had been the norm for so many years. Under that, the bankers individually will not be able to get the complete information about the happenings of the borrower. That's a natural lacuna that had been there. So that is a systemic issue. That is number one. And the borrowers, other dealings, other group entities, how they have been behaving with the Merrimani Bank, that was also not an information those days. That's where as a bank had thought first the relic was brought on to know, to let all the bankers know exactly what is the current position of the borrowers, the group, and their performance vis-a-vis different banks, whether it is consortium or non-consortium, multiple banking, whatever it is. Now that has been plugged to one way. The second loophole or the lacuna in the system had been about related party transactions.
Yes.
Those days, to follow through the related party transaction, there was no tool available for anybody. Even today, readily it is not available. Only when the forensic, when you conduct a forensic audit, that's because of that forensic audit tag, they get some extra powers to go behind, and the time is also needed. Here also we are talking about why this took this long time, because forensic is a very, very tedious affair. It takes a longer time, and especially when so many institutions, the way it is quoted, because I don't have any privy to any information, but the way press and media is quoting that something like 200 companies are involved in the whole mess. So that interplay, the flow of funds across these related party group, where one requires a lot of painstaking efforts to identify that. So that was the second lacuna. Luckily, now under the Companies Act provisions, they all have to clearly now disclose the certain dealings in the balance sheet and the financial information. That has been taken now. And the third development which has taken place, which will help banks in going forward, will be the Reserve Bank's recent last year the circular relating to discipline on current account opening. That was another loophole when without the knowledge of the banks who have granted the loans, that they could use the funds through some other banks, and the lending banks will never know about what are those things. Now at least that has been sought to be curbed through that requirement. Now the lending banks will have a clear information about large debits which is happening. Why now they will be able to ask that question, what for this is going, one will be able to pursue. So the systemic loopholes or systemic problem had been there, that by and by it is getting addressed as we have developed over the period.
You know, we're just playing out for you the statement of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on this case, because it quickly and as expected took a political turn. The case has been uncovered, so to speak, right now. The BJP and the FM has said that the origins of the case are in 2013. 2019 was when the first investigation started, and the CBI has finally registered its FIR just this week. My question to you, Tamal, is this truly a case of a political overhang, something which has been a huge point of discussion, that state lenders or state-run banks were lending as per what politicians wanted? Because in this case, your lead is a very well-respected private bank. Or is this simply one person managing to pull wool over the eyes of 28 banks? How do you see that?
No, well, you have asked me two questions about the political overtones. I think now Indians, or most Indians, or many Indians, believe that there is India before 2014 and India post 2014. There are two Indias. So if you are into that, one of those believers, then definitely everything happens before 2014 and everything happens to post 2014 will have political overtone. And depending on which side of you are, you look at it through that prism. So I'm not a political journalist, so I would not be able
asking
to
you
comment,
this question because you're a financial journalist and you understand
yes,
the system.
Yes.
Is this now, beyond that?
Yeah, it is beyond that. You look at the case, you are talking about 2013. Now, Mr. Gandhi, regulator sitting here, you would know the kind of pressure the banks were under post-Lehman crisis to lend, particularly to the infrastructure. Now, when you talk about ship repairing and shipbuilding, etc., these all fall into infrastructure. And that was the time when there was a pressure from government to lend. And if you look at this, most of the entities, they diversified either into 2Gs or into coal mining, etc., or into infrastructure, which has nothing to do with their main line of business. And so the narrative was very different at that point of time, which has changed post 2015 Reserve Bank of India's asset quality review. So bankers today are much more circumspect. They do not have that kind of hard mentality, which was there pre-2015. So that's the case. We need to look at this. What is the quick story is this? 2013 13 November, the banks found it NPA. Then what happened? They tried to restructure through CDR, the corporate debt restructuring, where you can change the interest rate, you can elongate the maturity profile, you can change even the currency to make it happen. But it failed in 2016. So then it had to be NPA with the retrospective effect from November 2013. And then there is a joint lenders committee. They will discuss and they will very chary about each other. I think that banks don't trust each other that well to discuss, frankly. So that will take time. Finally, 2018, Ernst & Young was appointed.
Sure.
And then the diversion of fund happened. And then CBI, once you get into CBI also needs to do its own investigation, because otherwise when it goes to court, it has to be full document. It takes time. So finally, I think the time taken, I think it will be unfair, because look at the cases, number of cases CBI is handling.
No, and also another point on the time taken, that the CBI has said in its press conference that there has been a withdrawal of consent by many states, which are opposition-run states, for a whole host of other reasons. Which is why they couldn't go ahead and do this. But nevertheless, bank frauds are a huge political issue. We can't quite deny that. And here is another one. But more than the politics of it, the systemic loopholes and how they can be plugged is truly the big question. I have to end it here. But Mr. Gandhi, Tamal, thank you so much for joining us on the show this evening. I hope we've shed a little bit of light on what is a case that is extremely complex, extremely interesting in the way it is now being investigated, and of course we'll keep tracking the story right here.